Well, it's a quiet one this morning. I think we should go in the pod. In the sofas, that'd be much better. And just me in the corner chatting. Yeah, that'd be great. So, Matt, thank you. Where is Matt? Is he done? Oh, he's at the back eating. What are you eating? Pain au chocolat. So, chocolate croissant. Base. Oh, very different things. Okay. He's very technical about his food rules. Well done, Matt, this morning, singing solo for us. Also, Matt, this week, I think you got a new puppy, didn't you? Was it last week? Oh, new puppy. Who's a dog person who loves a puppy or a doggy? Oh, lovely. Who likes cats? It's weird. I don't get that. Strange. I like all animals equally. They're all equally delicious. Anyway, so I love a dog. I've always wanted a dog as an adult. We had dogs as kids. I met my wife. That was taken off the table. But then we had kids, and nearly on a weekly basis, and I'm not exaggerating, the kids ask Steph, not me, they asked Steph, Mum, can we have a dog? Can we have a dog? And because Matt and Sal got a brand new puppy this week, they obviously asked again, Mum, can we have a dog? Can we have a puppy, please? Can we have a dog? And Steph answers, effectively, without question, no. Without question, no. Meaning, most certainly, no. Without question. And why does she do that? And it is because she's sensible. It's because for us, a dog right now would be a really dumb decision. It would be really, really stupid. And I really want a dog. I don't want anything too big, just a St. Bernard or a St. Bernard for the Americans in the room. I don't want anything massive, like a T-Rex, just a St. Bernard would do. But for us, it would be a really dumb decision. We have a very busy life. We've got 4 kids. We're already sort of just paddling to keep our heads above the water a lot of the time. Adding a dog in the mix for us at this time would be really, really dumb. It would be foolish. It would be dumb. And so I wanted to ask the question, have you ever made a choice that is really, really dumb? Never. Have you ever lied? Have you ever made a choice that's really, really dumb or really, really foolish? And I think 100% of the room, it's weird because often when I ask questions like that, only half the room sort of give any indication. But all of you went like that, yeah, we're all dumb. But 100% of us have done dumb things, and for many of us, perhaps we do it multiple times. Sometimes the same dumb thing over and over again. We can be so foolish many of the times. And so we should, without question, I think, because we know that about ourselves, ask ourselves this question is, how do I make decisions? Because we've all just exposed, we've all done dumb things, some more dumb than others, some more frequent than others, but we have to ask ourselves the question, if we know that about ourselves, is how do I make decisions? What is my decision-making process? Because we all have one, and they all look slightly different. We have our own little matrix in the background of how we decide every little tiny thing in life to the major things in our life. We all have an algorithm running in the background about how to make choices, to make decisions. We have a decision-making process. And maybe yours is simply this question. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? My decision-making process is A or B. What do I want to do? What's my preference? Maybe it's A, B, C, D, all the way through to Z or Z. All of them options, what do I want to do? That is your decision-making process, perhaps for you, perhaps for me in some areas of my life. And they say this quite often, especially if you're at a conference or something, or you're in a workplace meeting, and they say this thing that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Anyone got any questions? No such thing as a stupid question. There is. They just tell you that to try and get you to ask them questions, and then they go, that's stupid, and they take it off the table. But there is such thing as a stupid question, I believe, and I believe that the stupid question is, what do I want to do? I think that is one of the most stupidest questions to ask yourself when you have a decision-making process. If that is your algorithm of how you decide things or how I decide things, I think that would be dumb. I think that would be foolish, the Bible would say. It wouldn't say dumb because that sounds too harsh. But the Bible would call us fools if our decision-making process was the question, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to do? I think without question, asking the right question is key. And so for me, there's a better question to ask, the big question, if you like, the $64,000 question, or the $64,000? That's right, isn't it? That's a term in the States. Or $1 million question, which sounds much better. The best question. And what I want to do today, I want to run through quickly that some content and some principles that I brought to the church over 8 years ago now, and I've been wanting to sort of bring them back again, repackaged. And it's because it's probably my favorite ever message series. It was over 5 weeks before, and I want to do it just over 2 over this week and then the week after Kids Takeover. But it's probably my favorite one. It stuck with me the most. It resonated with me the most. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I lifted it from one of my favorite speakers. And what I mean by that is I stole the content. And I'm okay with that. It's just the major points within this message series that I watched. And I was like, this is golden. I'm like, this is some of the best stuff, the meatiest bones I could ever listen to that has the most impact in my life and I think the life of everyone. And so I was quite happy to take them principles and repackage them for us 8 years ago. And I want to bring that repackaged again today, just with a slightly different flavor. And today it's going to be really simple. I'm going to use one scripture, and it's going to be very simple for all of us just to engage in the topic, and I want to expand on it deeply in 2 weeks' time. But it's about a question to ask yourself before every opportunity, before every decision, before every invitation, everything. This one question, not what do I want to do, not what do I really want to do right now, because that, I think, is a dumb question. It's a stupid question. It's a foolish question. Not what is the legal thing to do, although that is a sensible question that we should ask ourselves. What's the legal thing for me to do in this situation? And sometimes when we think about that, we might think in the legal of the eyes of the law. We might think legalistically in the rules of being a Christian or that sort of thing. It's almost when we do that, it's like, what can I get by with? What am I allowed to get away with? Where's the edge? What can I choose and justify that I'm allowed to choose that? I don't want to use that question. Not even what is the right thing to do? Because that's a good question. You know, is it wrong? Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it right? Because I think this one's even better. It's a better question than that. Not what do I want to do? Not is it legal? Not is it right? It's an even better question. And I love it. And it is this. What is the wise thing for me to do? What is the wise thing for me to do? And so without question, for me, this is the best question to ask at every opportunity that comes your way. What's the wise thing for me to do? Every invitation that's given to you, what's the wise thing for me to do? Every decision, particularly major decisions, but maybe some of them micro decisions too. This one question to filter all of your decision-making process through. Your algorithm, your matrix, your DMP, decision-making process, this one question can help. Because when you look back at the worst decisions in your life, when I said, have you done anything dumb, have you done anything foolish, and everyone said, yes, I have. When we look back at them worst decisions, them wrong decisions, them bad decisions, them foolish decisions, them worst decisions of our lives, you don't think, how did that happen? How did I get here? And sometimes we might wonder that in our mind, but we really know. How did I get here? It's because you made a series of unwise choices, one after the other, all the way leading closer and closer to wrong or bad or worst or stupid or foolish or devastating. You made lots of unwise decisions so that when you were right on the cliff edge of allowed, legal, get away with, it was just one more step to wrong, to bad, to devastating, to to sin, whatever it might be. It's so easy to do. We take these small steps, one unwise decision after another, until that small step to wrong. And those decisions weren't bad. They weren't wrong. They weren't immoral. They weren't illegal. If you got caught, let's say, doing one of them decisions, not caught necessarily, but like someone pointed at a decision that you made, you could justify why you do it. Well, it's not wrong. It's not illegal. I'm allowed to do it. And we can make these decisions all over and over again until we get right to the edge, and it's just that one last decision often that is some of the worst decisions of our life. And we might think, how did I get here? But we know how we got there. It was a series of unwise decisions. They weren't bad on their own. They weren't illegal on their own. They weren't wrong. But were they wise? And so this tiny little bit of scripture I want to read is from Paul writing to the Ephesians church, Ephesians 5:15, that says this. I love it. Be very careful then how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise. Making the most of every opportunity. Other translations say making the most of the time that you have. Because the days are evil. And it says this, therefore do not be foolish. Paul's recognizing you lot, all of us, me included, we're all dumb and foolish sometimes. Like that's our default setting perhaps. But let's not be them things. Let's not do that. But understand what the Lord's will is. Be very careful then how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise. And Paul was saying here, like, the days are evil. And he's basically saying, just don't go with the flow of culture. Don't just lift your feet up in the flow of culture, because it will take you in a direction that you perhaps don't want to go in. And so Paul's like, don't go with the flow. Be very careful how you live. Are you careful how you live? And Paul's saying, live wise. Live wise. That's what he's saying. Make sure you live wise. Wise up, he might say, if he was from the 90s. He's saying, don't be foolish. Paul's saying, stop doing dumb stuff. That's what he's saying to his mates. He loves these people that are in the Ephesians church. Stop being... You got a mate who's like that, and you think, I can't believe they make them decisions. Over and over again. They're so... And they think about you. You're so intelligent and balanced in your decision-making process. Don't be foolish, he says. Don't stop doing dumb stuff. And don't pretend like you don't get it, like you don't know how these things happen. Because I think we all understand the value of this question. I think we don't ask the question because almost always we know the answer. Which is why we don't ask ourselves the question. Because we almost always, and we'll come into that later, know the answer. The question of what is the wise thing for me to do? At every opportunity, every decision, every invitation. What's the wise thing for me to do? And I want to break this down into three elements. And again, I stole this principle, this content, the way this is structured, because it's so brilliant for me. And it's broken down into this, saying, considering what I know about my past, what is the wise thing for me to do? Not what is the wise thing to do generally in the population, but knowing what I know about myself, in light of my past experience, considering what I know about me, what is the wise thing for me to do? Because your past is your past, isn't it? And my past is my past, and they look very different. Some of them look very different. And you see, what might be okay for me to do, probably not wise for you to do. And vice versa. What you can do and is wise and is fine is probably devastating to me. Because of our past experience, because of our makeup, the way we've been shaped, even our genetics. Because you know what happened the last time you went. You know what happened the last time you agreed to that, the last time you decided that. You know that. You know what happened the last time you done that thing with that person. So in light of your specific history, ask yourself the question, in light of your past experience, what is the wise thing for me to do. Not what's the right thing, not what's the legal thing, because you can justify so many things. It's not wrong, morally wrong. It's not morally wrong. It's not illegal. I can do it. Everyone else does it. It's fine for them. But based on your past experience, what is the wise thing for you to do? And this question, when it's framed like this, brings such clarity to our decision-making process that I think we hate it. Because it almost takes the decision-making process to like minimizing what we can choose. If we're going to make decisions based upon our past, and we know exactly what we should do to stop history repeating itself, is to ask this question. And for me, my past, you know, with what I grew up with and the scenarios that I went through, you know, I was not an alcoholic, but I definitely misused alcohol heavily growing up. From an age of 14 to probably 21, 22. Heavy misuse of alcohol, part of every social situation, and I mean ridiculous amounts. That you know, most people go to college or university and they think, and they get free and they start drinking and going out. I'd pre-prepared. I had a degree in it before I arrived, to the point my mates were like, flipping it, mate, slow down. And like at the time, I was like, yeah. It's just because I had lots of body fat, I could absorb it all. And metabolize it away with my muscle mass. But for a long time, I misused alcohol where it was problematic in my life. And not majorly, but it was problematic. And at some point, probably 17 years ago, I'd say, probably a bit more, I had to wise up. I had to wise up to this thing. And know that in light of the fact that in my past, I struggled to say no, or I struggled to just have a little, or struggled to not act a fool when having alcohol, I had to wise up and ask, what's the wise thing for me to do? I've been asked by that person who I usually go there with and do these things with, when I'm invited, when I have an opportunity, what's the wise thing for me? What am I allowed to do? Not what's legal. What's the wise thing for me to do? Not I can go and have one. No, because I know in my past I've never been able to do that. I've gone out. I know I've gone out. I'm not even going to drink. I'm going to drive. I know, but you know, in my past, when you've done that, you've ended up driving, got a taxi home. So what is the wise thing for me to do? 17, I had to get to that point and understand, based on my past, what's the wise thing for me to do? And so for me, it was like, I'm not going to go here with these people at this time because it wasn't wise. Not right or wrong, but wasn't wise. And so for a long time, the answer to that question for me in them scenarios of what was the wise thing for me to do, it was to say no. That was the wise thing for me to do. And it's different now. I don't have the same issues going on. I've overcome many strongholds in that area. And so my decision-making process is perhaps different. But considering what I know about my past, what is the wise thing for me to do? And without question, it's a great question. It's just we don't like the answer. So let's move on. Considering what I am experiencing right now, in light of my current circumstance, where I am today, forget about the past now for a minute, but where I am today, the scenario that I find myself in today, considering what I know I'm experiencing now, what I'm actually experiencing right now today, what is the wise thing for me to do? So you just got married. In light of that fact, what's the wise thing for you to do? You used to be single. When you were single, you used to do these things. You'd be able to go here, do them things, spend money on them things. But now, in light of the fact you're now married, now what is the wise thing for you to do? It wasn't wrong before. It wasn't illegal, and it still isn't, and it wouldn't be. But what is the wise thing for me to do now? Maybe you've just gone through a divorce or a breakup or a loss or something, and you're ready for something new relationally. But in light of your current vulnerability, what's the wise thing for me to do? Not forever, not for everyone else, but for me, what is the wise thing for me to do now? Maybe you're currently in debt, or you got things on credit, and you got payments going out monthly that you just like, you know, when you bought that sofa, that TV, that car, that holiday, that dog, that whatever things. Can you buy a dog on credit? Not a good one. Get a used one on credit, can you? But you might have bought them things on credit, on finance, and you see the monthly payments going out. And it's funny, them monthly payments don't feel quite as good as the day you bought the thing, which you didn't buy the thing that day. You just agreed that you're going to be paying for it for a long time. But maybe you're in that scenario. You're currently in debt, things you've got on credit, you're wishing them payments were not going out. But now you desire the new car, the holiday, the sofa, whatever it is. So for your current situation, what is the wise thing for me to do? Not what do I want to do, because that's an easy, we all know the answer to that. I want to buy a new car, go on holiday. What was my other thing? I need a new sofa. We've got this big leather curved gum. I bought it on Gumtree for I think it was like £175. It's huge. And I bought it because I've got kids who do this on sofas. And so I thought, I'm not buying a new sofa. There's no way I'm doing that. But I love Gumtree. I'm a big fan of Gumtree because it allows me to make some wise choices about some of my purchases. Based on my current situation, what's the wise thing for me to do? Not what do I want to do, not what do I desire to do, not what can I get away with, what's legal, but what is the wise thing for me to do? And it doesn't matter the scenario. You just started a new job. You've just moved to a new place. You just had your first baby. You just had your second baby. You just had your fourth baby. Whatever, in this current climate, in light of your current circumstance, what is the wise thing for me to do now? It's not right or wrong. It's not legal or illegal. Not what everyone else is doing, but what, for me, based on my current situation, is wise to do. And again, this brings an uncomfortable level of clarity in your decision-making process. It's like it's so clear that it's annoying. For me, when I think about it, I played rugby for many, many years, and I got broken in many different ways. Broken bones into the double digits. I limp, I'm sore most days. And so, but I got bored of not doing anything combative. And so Steph would be like, you need to pick up some other thing because you're grumpy all the time. And so I ended up going to MMA a few years ago, a combat sport, punching and kicking, like the cage fighting type thing. Done that for 9 months to a year. And I loved it. It's great. Honestly, I love it. But every time, I was fine until I got hit in the head. And I'm weird. I quite like being punched in the face. I think that's why I like contact sport. I like getting hit. I like that stimulus. But my neck doesn't like me getting punched in the face. Anytime I get hit in the head, and this involuntary movement of having my head being flung back really hurts my neck. And so I had to come to a decision a few years ago. It was before COVID. I'm like, I need to stop doing this because based on my current circumstance, in light of what I'm going through, what's the wise thing for me to do? And so I stopped, and then I got the itch again a little while ago, and I was like, I really want to go back. And I signed up for MMA and jiu-jitsu. It was one big club. You can go every night of the week, basically, and do all of them. And it was literally this question. And I went to go to my first session of MMA, not jiu-jitsu, and I was like, what am I doing? And part of me is like, Phil, you love doing this sort of stuff. It's good for you to go and do something you enjoy doing. I'm not trying to convince myself. I want to do it. And I'm over here, but what's the wise thing for you to do? Based on your current circumstance and your past experience, what's the wise thing for you to do right now? It's like, not do MMA, isn't it? And so I ended up just doing the jiu-jitsu side, which is far more controlled. It's still combative. I don't like it as much, but it ticks most of the boxes, and it's far more controlled, and I can do it. And so for me, even though it's not what I want, it's not the top of my list, it is the wise thing for me to do. So, considering your current circumstances, what is the wise thing for you to do? And again, without question, this is a great question. It's just we don't like the answer. Last thing. Considering... And I think this is the most important. Considering what I want for my future, what is the wise thing for me to do? Considering what I want for my future. And some of you might sit here thinking, all right, this is stupid. This is so 101. This is so simple. You're the one who admitted to me you've done lots of dumb stuff in the past. And when we think about this isn't this what we want our kids to do? We want our kids to ask themselves this question every time they make a major decision. And yet, for some reason, we don't want to apply it to our own decision-making process, but we desire it for them. Why? Because we love them. And we know that this is good for them. And we want to love them and we want to instill this in them. But somehow we don't have our best interest at heart and don't love ourselves as much as perhaps we should by implementing this on our own decision-making process. I want to download this into my brain as part of my algorithm. So it's natural, and maybe for some of you it is, and I want to say carry on and good on you. Because it's always a bad idea to trade in what you know you want for your future, for something you want now. Especially when you know that you're not always going to want the thing that you want now. And so this part of the question, I think, has the power to change the trajectory of many people's lives. If they could only filter their decisions through this one question. Because we've all got future hopes and dreams. We all do, even if they're tiny. Even if you don't articulate them, you've got future hopes and dreams. You have a vision for your future, for your family's future, for your church future, for every part of your life. And I want to say, don't let yourself rob yourself of that. By not having this decision-making process running in the background, the words of Paul of saying, live as wise, not unwise. Don't be foolish. Live as wise. Considering what I want for my future, what is the wise thing for me to do? Not everyone else, because everyone else's hopes and dreams and for the future are different than yours. But for you specifically, you know, if you're in a relationship, and this is wider than perhaps the people in the room, but if you're in a relationship with someone that you don't want to marry, that might easily determine your choice if you've got thoughts and feelings about wanting to do that in your future for your hopes and dreams. If you want to be somewhere better professionally than perhaps your parents were, then that sort of determines your choices right now. It whittles them down to a smaller selection. You want to be in a better place financially in the future. That determines what is the wise thing for you to do today. And I'd thought about this question. Don't you wish you'd been asking this all of your life? For every area of your life, I wish I'd have done this with some of the dumb stuff I've done. Not just financially, but relationally, emotionally, spiritually. Every element of my life, I wish I would have made this my number one all the time. And perhaps we do this a lot of the time. But I wish I'd have done it all of the time. Because isn't it true that you'd be better off emotionally, financially, relationally, if you'd asked this question every time you acted? So for me and Steph, I talked about this a few years ago, but our future hopes and dreams, and we don't articulate many to each other in big grand things, but one of them that we've always talked about, that we just put in there, and it feels arbitrary, but it was just like a dream, a hope that we do, is that we'd be debt-free at 50. That's what we wanted. We talked about it from a very young age. We got married very young. We got a house very young. It's like we were on that trajectory. We want to be debt-free at 50, no mortgage. We want to have everything wiped out, and that's all we've got. We've paid student loans off. We've done everything else. We've got the mortgage left now, and it's like we want to. And then we had another third kid, and then we had a fourth kid. It's like we've got to have another house. We've got to work out how this is going to work, and we step back a little bit off of that trajectory, and it's like, okay, that's not going to happen now. And so then I said to Steph, right, we've got some decisions to make. Do we want that as our hope and future? And some of you might think, well, that's a bit of a boring hopes, and that's not a hope and a dream. A dreams go to have a holiday home in somewhere. No, debt-free at 50. I'm really that boring. And really, if I'm honest, that hope and dream isn't really about us. It's about positioning us so that we might be able to help our children. Because we have 4 and live in England, which means that the housing is, you're going to have to sort this one out. But I'll do my part. Our hope and dream is to be debt-free at 50, so we can be in a position maybe that we might be able to help them, perhaps onto the property ladder if it's applicable and right for them at the time. That's what we want to be able to do. That we want to set ourselves up for that. And so we have some decisions to make. It's like, what are we going to do now to get there? And so it's like, oh dear. So we start overpaying on our mortgage. And I know some of you in the room, you do the same. You've got your mortgage and you want to overpay to pay it off by a certain amount. Not only is it sensible because you save interest, but it means you're debt-free earlier. And so this question, based on our future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing for us to do is it forces our decisions to be like, okay, we overpay. That's what we're going to do. Even though, particularly with Steph, inside of her is screaming, I want to go to Disney. And many of you know, we've gone to Florida lots of times, every 2 or 3 years. And I'm a loser. I love it. I like, on the internet, I get the cheapest deals possible that we can go at like half the, people tell me how much they spend. I laugh at them. Because I love that more than the holiday. It's how much money I can save and getting it on a shoestring, being it on a real budget. I love it. And then I looked for next year and I was like, I can't find it. It's like double what we were paying before. Like, even over double, in fact. And I said to Steph, we just can't do it. And I was like, well, technically, Steph, we can, but we'd not overpay on them. We could use that money for the holiday, but we wouldn't be overpaying, and we wouldn't then, obviously, perhaps get up to our future hopes and dreams. And I love it, because a few years ago, she would have said this. She would have gone, no, let's not do it then. And I was like, yes, I'm winning. No, I love the holidays too as well. But for us, we can do it in a different way, even though it's a hope and we desire to do that thing. That thing is not as important to us. And so we have to make a decision. What's the wise thing for us to do? What's going to position us in the future for the things that we want to do? What decisions are we going to make now? Even if they're boring and ones we don't want to do. We don't want to trade in a dream for tomorrow for something today that we're not going to have tomorrow. And so with that new car, you know, I know I'm talking finance here, but that'll get old. And often they get old really quickly, don't they? I mean in your mind, it's like, yeah, next one. That new phone that's all shiny and makes you excited doesn't make you excited very quick for very long. Them holidays sometimes can bring value to family and connection and relationships, and sometimes we've got to invest in that as well. But takeaways, that's one that can be taken off the table for us easy. That new iPhone contract, all them things, whatever it is, considering what I want for my future, what is the wise thing for me to do? And again, without question, that is a great question. And again, we just don't like the answer. And so to finish up, putting it all together, as we finish just framing this topic before we delve into it really in 2 weeks' time, is this. Let's put it all together. Considering what I know about my past, what I'm experiencing right now, what I want for my future, what is the wise thing for me to do? And for me, and maybe for you, this is a game changer when it comes to our decision-making process for every opportunity, every decision, every invitation. And if we ask this question over and over again, just it becomes part of our process. There'll be less tears, less heartache, less relational damage. You'll be better off relationally with everyone in your life. You'll be better off financially. It's almost like bulletproof in your life. Near bulletproof, not as best we can. And should we be surprised that all the way through the Old Testament, all the way through the New Testament, and there's hundreds and hundreds of scriptures that I could bring, and I'm going to bring quite a few of them next time. We're not called to live by what we want to do. We're not called to live by do what you really desire and want. We're called to live wise. We're called to live wisely, not as unwise, but as wise. So without question, for me, my bottom line is if you make decisions without asking this question, you will, without question, regret not asking the question. Is without question, if you make decisions without asking the question, you will without question regret not asking yourself the question. Without this question, or however you want to frame it and articulate it in your own mind, but this sort of process of living wise, without this question, we'll do more dumb, stupid stuff. And we will not, as Paul says for us to do, we won't be careful how we live and live as wise. So without question, for me, this is the greatest question. We're going to pick this up in 2 weeks. Amen.